It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, and I was sitting on the balcony with a cup of tea, watching the sunlight ripple across the street. The city felt calm, almost like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I was scrolling through my phone, checking messages and emails, when suddenly it rang. The number was unknown. I hesitated. I usually ignored calls from numbers I didn't recognize, but something made me answer this one. "Hello," I said, my voice slightly shaky. On the other end, there was a pause. Then a soft, unfamiliar voice spoke. "Is this Maria?" "Yes, this is Maria. Who's calling?" I asked, curious and cautious. "My name is Daniel," the voice said. "I think we need to talk. It's important." My heart skipped a beat. I had no idea who this person was, and yet, his voice had a strange familiarity. It wasn't threatening, but it carried a weight, as if he knew something about me that I didn't. "Important? About what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I can't explain everything over the phone," he said, almost apologetically, "but I have something that belongs to your family. Something you've never known existed." I froze. My mind raced with questions. How did this stranger have something of my family's? And what could it be? Memories of my childhood, of stories my grandmother used to tell me, flickered through my mind. There were things I had always wondered about, secrets that had never been explained. Can we meet?" I asked, my curiosity overtaking the caution I had felt moments before. "Yes," he said. "There's a cafe near the park. Tomorrow at 3, and just like that, the call ended. I sat there in silence, gripping my cup, staring at the phone as if it might suddenly start vibrating again with more answers. My day, which had started so ordinary, had suddenly taken a sharp turn into the unknown. An unexpected phone call, from a stranger claiming to know something about my family, had opened a door I wasn't sure I was ready to walk through. Yet, deep inside, I knew I couldn't ignore it. Something told me that this call would change everything. The next day, I arrived at the cafe a little early. The sun was warm, and the streets were bustling with people, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept glancing at the entrance, half expecting Daniel to appear out of nowhere, like a character from a dream. Finally, I saw him. Daniel looked ordinary at first glance: jeans, a plain jacket, and a calm expression, but there was something in his eyes that made me pause. It was as if he carried stories too heavy to tell, yet he tried to hide them behind a polite smile. "Maria?" he asked, standing up as I approached. "Yes," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for meeting me." "Of course," he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "I know this is sudden, and probably confusing." I nodded, unsure of what to say. "You mentioned something about my family." Daniel took a deep breath and leaned in. "I know this will sound strange, but I have something. A letter, actually, from your grandmother. She sent it to me years ago, with instructions to give it to you when the time was right." My stomach sank. A letter from my grandmother. She had passed away when I was very young, and I had barely any memory of her. I had always wondered about the stories she never finished telling me. "Why me and why now?" I asked, my curiosity growing with every second. "She said it contains the answers to questions you didn't even know you had," Daniel explained. He placed a small, worn envelope on the table. The paper looked old, fragile at the edges, and my grandmother's handwriting was unmistakable. I hesitated for a moment, my fingers hovering over it. Finally, I picked it up. The weight of the envelope in my hands felt heavier than it should have. It was more than just paper. It was a bridge to the past. 2 family secrets I had never been told, and to a part of my life I had never known existed. Daniel watched me quietly. "Everything will make sense if you read it carefully," he said. "But be prepared. Some truths are harder than we expect." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. Questions raced through my mind. What did my grandmother want me to know? What had Daniel been keeping all these years? And why had the letter only reached me now? Taking a deep breath, I opened the envelope. Inside, there was a folded note, and a small key tied with a faded ribbon. My hands shook as I unfolded the paper, revealing my grandmother's familiar, elegant handwriting. As I read the first line, a chill ran down my spine. It started with a secret, one I never could have imagined, and it promised to change everything I thought I knew about my family. The words on the letter seemed to shimmer as I read them, though the paper itself was old and worn. My grandmother's handwriting was careful and deliberate, almost as if each stroke carried a hidden message. The first few lines spoke of love, family, and the importance of trust, but then the note shifted, revealing something I had never imagined. She wrote about a secret room in our family home, a place she had kept hidden for years. Inside was a small box, locked with a key, the very key Daniel had given me. The letter explained that the box contained items that held pieces of our family history, things that could help me understand who I really was. My heart pounded. The house she mentioned was the one I had grown up in, yet I had never noticed anything unusual. Every corner seemed familiar, ordinary, and safe. How could a secret room exist right under my nose all these years? Daniel watched me closely, sensing my disbelief. "It's true," he said softly. "I've seen the room once, many years ago, when your grandmother first entrusted me with this task. She wanted to make sure the right person found it when the time was right." I felt a swirl of emotions: excitement, fear, and a strange kind of nostalgia. I had always wondered about my grandmother, about her mysterious ways and the stories she never finished telling. Now, it seemed, she had left me a final puzzle, one I was meant to solve. What kind of things are in the box?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Memories," Daniel said, choosing his words carefully. "Photos, letters, small objects. Each one carries a story. Some are happy, some are painful, but they're all yours. They'll help you understand your family and yourself in ways you can't imagine yet." I clutched the envelope and key in my hand, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over me. The ordinary world I had known, with its predictable routines and quiet afternoons, suddenly seemed distant. Ahead lay something uncertain, something I didn't know if I was ready for, but something I couldn't ignore. I have to go home," I said finally. "I need to find the room." Daniel nodded, his expression unreadable. "Take your time, but remember, some truths can change you, and there's no turning back once you see them." I left the cafe with a mixture of anticipation and unease. The familiar streets felt different now, as if every building and tree held a secret I had never noticed. That evening, I returned to my old home, the envelope and key burning a hole in my pocket. Standing in front of the door, I took a deep breath. Somewhere inside, hidden behind a wall or beneath a floorboard, was the room my grandmother had promised me, and inside it, the answers to questions I hadn't even known I was asking. The house was quiet when I arrived, the kind of silence that made every creak of the floorboards sound louder than usual. I clutched the key tightly, my fingers tracing the worn edges as I walked through the familiar rooms. Nothing seemed out of place until I reached the study, a small room filled with dusty books and old photographs. I remembered the letter mentioning the secret room was hidden somewhere in the study. I began examining the walls, the bookshelves, even the floorboards. Every detail felt like a clue. Then, I noticed it, a small, almost invisible seam along the wall near the corner. My heart raced as I pressed against it. The wall shifted slightly under my hands. I had found it. With trembling fingers, I inserted the key into a small, hidden lock embedded in the seam. The click echoed through the silent house like a small drumbeat, announcing that a long-held secret was finally being revealed. I pushed the panel open, and there it was, a tiny room, dimly lit, filled with boxes, envelopes, and shelves lined with objects that seemed ordinary at first glance, but carried a weight I could feel instantly. I stepped inside, my eyes widening. The air smelled faintly of old paper and wood polish. On a table in the center of the room sat a box, tied with a ribbon almost identical to the one Daniel had given me. I opened it carefully, and inside were photographs, letters, and trinkets, each one a story, a piece of my family's past that I had never known. I picked up a photograph of my grandmother as a young woman, standing with a man I didn't recognize. A letter tucked behind it told a story of sacrifices she had made, of choices that had shaped the family in ways no one had spoken about. I felt tears prick my eyes. The happy memories were their 2 birthday celebrations, small handwritten notes of encouragement, but alongside them were secrets that explained the silences I had felt growing up. I realized then that this room wasn't just a collection of objects, it was a bridge between the past and the present. Each item carried lessons, regrets, and love, and together, they painted a picture of a family far more complex than I had ever imagined. As I carefully placed the letters and photographs back in the box, I felt a strange sense of connection. My grandmother had trusted me with these stories for a reason, and now it was my turn to understand, to carry them forward. I sat there for a long time, reading, touching, and remembering. The phone call, the cafe meeting, the letter, it all led to this moment. And though the secrets were heavy, I knew that uncovering them had brought me closer to the family I thought I already knew. Somewhere deep inside, I sensed the final piece of the puzzle was still out there, waiting to reveal itself. Days passed after I discovered the secret room, but I couldn't stop thinking about one thing: the final line of my grandmother's letter. It hinted at something beyond the photographs, letters, and objects, a secret she had saved for the very last moment. Something she wanted me to find only when I was ready. That evening, I called Daniel. "I found the room," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "But there's still something missing. I think there's one more piece." "I suspected as much," Daniel replied quietly. "Your grandmother left one last key, a hidden message, in a place she trusted only you could reach. It's something she didn't put in the letter. She wanted you to discover it on your own." "Where?" I asked, though a part of me feared the answer. "Follow your instincts," he said. "You'll know when you found it." I spent the night pacing the house, thinking, remembering everything my grandmother had ever told me or hinted at. Finally, I returned to the study, standing in the center of the room and looking at the shelves, the boxers, the table. And then I saw it, a small, carved wooden box tucked behind a stack of old books. It had no lock, no ribbon, just a simple, unassuming container. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside was a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age, and a small locket. My grandmother's handwriting filled the page. The letter revealed a truth that shocked me, a family connection I had never known, a story of love and sacrifice, and a message meant to guide me in life. She had left me not just memories, but a path and understanding of who I was, and why my family had faced the hardships they did. I held the locket in my hands, feeling a warmth spread through me. It contained a tiny photograph of someone I didn't recognize at first, but then I realized it was Daniel, younger, standing beside my grandmother. My heart skipped a beat. The stranger who had called me, who had delivered the letter, had been part of my family's story all along. Everything clicked into place. The phone call, the meeting, the letter, the room, they had been steps in a journey my grandmother had carefully planned. She had trusted me to uncover the truth, to connect the pieces, and to carry forward the legacy of love and resilience she had built. Tears streamed down my face, but they were not just tears of sadness. They were tears of understanding, of closure, and of a deep, unshakable connection to the past. That night, I sat in the study, holding the locket, reading the letters again, and finally feeling whole. An unexpected phone call had changed everything, and that moment, I realized that some surprises, no matter how startling, are meant to lead us exactly where we need to be.